The massive alien ships appeared in the empty darkness above Earth like silver daggers cutting through black cloth. Commander Raxduel stood on the bridge of the war vessel Death's Promise. His 6 eyes focused on the planet rotating slowly. Below them, his thick, scaled fingers drummed against the metal railing as he studied the readings. "Report," he commanded in his deep, growling voice. Lieutenant Kevandra, a younger alien with bright blue skin, looked up from her control panel. Her voice trembled slightly with excitement. "Sir, it's definitely the human homeworld, Earth, the planet from the old galactic records." Raxduel nodded slowly. Every civilized species in the galaxy had heard stories about the humans. They were a strange race that had appeared briefly in galactic affairs about 400 years ago. Human traders and diplomats had visited several worlds, always asking questions, always learning, always watching. Then one day, they simply disappeared. Most alien governments assumed the humans had destroyed themselves in some kind of planetary war. Now, looking at the broken world below, Raxduel knew those assumptions had been correct. Earth looked like someone had taken a perfect blue marble and smashed it with a hammer. The continents were cracked and split apart in ways that hurt to look at. Where once there had been green forests and blue oceans, now there were only brown wastelands and dried lake beds that looked like enormous scars. The cities were nothing but twisted metal and broken concrete, scattered across the landscape like the toys of some giant child who had grown bored and walked away. "Any signs of life?" Raxduel asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, sir," replied Kevandra, checking her instruments again. "No heat signatures, no electrical activity, no radio signals, nothing. The planet is completely dead." Rax smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. This was exactly what he had hoped to find. Dead civilizations were valuable. Their technology could be studied, their metals could be mined, their artifacts could be sold to museums and private collectors across the galaxy. A completely dead human world would make him rich beyond his wildest dreams. "Excellent," he said. "Signal the mining ships. Tell them to begin surface operations immediately. I want every scrap of useful metal stripped from this planet within 6 months." As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, dozens of smaller ships detached from the main vessels and began flying toward the surface. These mining ships were equipped with powerful drilling equipment and massive cargo holds. They would land near the ruined human cities and begin tearing apart everything they found. The aliens had no way of knowing that their every movement was being watched. 3 miles below the ruins of what had once been Seoul, Commander Park Wan sat in a chair made of polished metal, staring at a wall covered with dozens of glowing screens. Each screen showed a different view of the alien ships above. Some cameras were hidden in pieces of rubble. Others were built into the walls of collapsed buildings. A few were disguised as rocks or chunks of twisted metal. Park Wan was 52 years old, but he looked much younger. Living underground for his entire life had kept him away from the sun and weather that aged people on the surface. His black hair was still thick, and his dark eyes were sharp and alert. He wore a simple gray uniform with no decorations or medals, but every person in the underground facility treated him with deep respect. "Sir," said technical specialist Kim Yura from her position at a nearby control panel, "the aliens are deploying mining equipment. They're following the exact landing patterns we predicted they would use." Park Wan nodded without taking his eyes off the screens. He and his team had spent years studying alien behavior, learning how different species approached the task of stripping resources from dead planets. The aliens above were acting exactly as expected. "Good," he said quietly. "How long until they establish permanent surface bases?" "Based on their current pace, approximately 72 hours, Kim Yura replied. "They'll want to set up command centers and supply depots before beginning major excavation operations." Park Wan finally looked away from the screens and turned to face the rest of his command team. There were 12 other people in the room, all wearing the same gray uniforms. all watching him with expressions of calm attention. These people had been born in the underground cities, just like him. They had been trained from childhood for this exact moment. Begin Phase 1, Parquan ordered. Activate the nanite dispersal systems. I want every piece of alien equipment on this planet infected within 24 hours. Across the planet, in thousands of hidden installations buried deep beneath the surface, microscopic machines began to stir. These nanites had been waiting patiently for decades, embedded in chunks of concrete and pieces of twisted metal. They were so small that even the most powerful alien scanners could not detect them, but now they had work to do. The aliens above continued their salvage operations, completely unaware that their every tool, every vehicle, and every weapon was slowly being infiltrated by invisible machines designed to learn everything about their technology and prepare it for human use. The trap had been set centuries ago. Now it was beginning to close, deep beneath the broken remains of what had once been the bustling city of Busan. Commander Li Dong sat in a room that no alien scanner could ever find. The walls around him were made of thick metal that had been specially designed to block any kind of detection signal. Blue lights glowed softly from the ceiling, giving everything in the room a strange, underwater appearance. Li Dong was a tall, thin man with short black hair and calm dark eyes. He had lived his entire 45 years in these underground tunnels, just like his parents and grandparents before him. To him, the surface world was nothing more than an old story that the elders told to children. The real world was here, in the vast network of cities and tunnels that stretched beneath the earth like the roots of some enormous tree. Around him, dozens of people sat at control panels, covered with blinking lights and glowing screens. These screens showed pictures from cameras hidden all across the planet's surface. Some cameras were built into chunks of broken concrete. Others were disguised as pieces of twisted metal or scattered rocks. The aliens walking around above had no idea they were being watched by thousands of electronic eyes. Sir, the alien mining crews are setting up their equipment exactly where we thought they would, reported Technical Officer Kim Hannah from her position at a large control panel. Her young face was lit by the glow of her screens as her fingers moved quickly across the controls. Li Dong nodded slowly. He and his people had spent many years studying how different alien races behaved when they found dead planets. They knew that most aliens would land near the biggest ruins first, looking for the most valuable technology. The aliens above were doing exactly what the humans had expected. What about the other stations? Li Dong asked. The voice of Commander Park's son came through the communication system, clear and strong despite traveling through miles of rock and metal. Deep Station Alpha reports that alien teams are digging through the Seoul ruins. They're finding the fake technology we left for them. Deep Station Beta confirms the aliens have built camps near the Tokyo ruins, added Commander Yang Min from somewhere far beneath the Pacific Ocean. They're very excited about the primitive human weapons they're discovering, Li Dong allowed himself a small smile. The aliens thought they were finding real human technology, but everything they discovered had been carefully placed there decades ago. The weapons and machines the aliens were so excited about were designed to look like they came from a civilization that was hundreds of years behind current galactic technology. Meanwhile, the real human technology was far more advanced than anything the aliens had ever seen. Hidden in the walls around Li Dong were computers so small and powerful that they could think faster than 1,000,000 alien brains working together. These computers were analyzing every piece of alien equipment that came near the surface, learning how it worked and figuring out how to make it even better. Begin Phase 1. Li Dong ordered in a quiet voice that somehow carried to every person in the room. Kim Hannah pressed a series of buttons on her control panel. Phase 1 initiated. Sir Nanite, dispersal, beginning now. All across the planet's surface, something invisible began to happen. Tiny machines, so small that millions of them could fit on the head of a pin, started to wake up from their long sleep. These nanites had been waiting patiently in the rubble and debris for decades, programmed to activate only when alien technology came near. The nanites were humanity's greatest creation. Each one was like a microscopic robot, with one simple job: get inside alien equipment and learn everything about how it worked. They could slip through the tiniest cracks, hide in electronic circuits, and copy themselves whenever they needed to spread to new machines. On the surface, the alien mining crews continued their work, completely unaware of what was happening to their equipment. Every drill, every scanner, every vehicle they used was slowly being invaded by millions of tiny machines. The nanites moved through the alien technology like invisible water, studying every circuit and every program. Commander Vexteller of the alien mining crew stood near his command vehicle, watching his teams work through the ruins of what had once been a human city. The readings on his scanner showed valuable metals everywhere. This dead planet was going to make him very rich. "Sir," called out one of his workers, "we've found some kind of human weapon. It looks very primitive, but it might be worth something to the museums back home." Vexteller walked over to examine the device. It looked like a simple energy rifle, the kind that most civilized species had stopped using centuries ago. He had no way of knowing that hidden inside the weapon's metal casing were sensors and computers that were already analyzing his scanner, his clothes, and even the air he breathed. "Take it back to the ship for study," Vexteller ordered. "Make sure to catalog everything we find." As his workers carried the weapon away, millions of nanites went with it, spreading throughout the alien ship like an invisible infection. Within hours, every piece of technology on the vessel would be completely compromised, feeding information back to the humans buried deep below. The trap was working perfectly, and the aliens had no idea they were already caught. Commander Ralvex stood in the control room of his massive ship, staring at reports that made no sense. His thick, gray skin was covered in a thin layer of nervous sweat, and his large yellow eyes darted back and forth across the glowing screens in front of him. "Sir, we've lost contact with Mining Team 7, reported his assistant, Officer Colmyra. She had 4 arms that moved quickly as she worked at her control panel, trying to find answers that weren't there. "That's the 3rd team this week," Ralvex growled, deep in his throat, a sound that would have terrified most creatures in the galaxy. But right now, he was the one who was afraid. "What do our sensors show?" "Nothing, sir," Colmyra replied, her voice shaking slightly. "No life signs, no energy weapons, no movement at all. The teams just ... disappear." Down on the surface, the mining teams had been reporting strange problems. Their drilling machines would suddenly stop working, but when the repair teams examined them, they couldn't find anything wrong. Communication equipment would start sending out weird signals that hurt the aliens' ears and made their heads ache. Worst of all, entire supply ships had vanished without a trace while flying between the surface and the main fleet. Ralvex had ordered his best scientists to figure out what was happening. They told him it must be some kind of old human technology that was still working after all these years. Maybe the humans had built automatic defense systems before they died out. But how can a dead planet fight back? Ralvex wondered aloud. Far below, hidden in the ruins of what had once been a city called Daegu, Captain Kim Jun lay perfectly still behind a pile of broken concrete. He wore a special suit that changed colors to match whatever was around him, making him almost invisible, even to the advanced alien sensors. In his hands, he held a weapon that looked like it had been made by the aliens themselves, but it had been improved by human engineers who understood alien technology better than the aliens did. Through his electronic scope, Kim Jun watched a group of 6 alien soldiers walking slowly through the rubble. They were searching for signs of what had happened to their missing teams, but they had no idea they were walking into a trap that had been prepared for over 200 years. Team leaders, Report, Kim Jun whispered into the tiny microphone attached to his throat. His voice was so quiet that even someone standing next to him wouldn't have heard it. Team 2 in position, came the reply from Sergeant Liha, who was hidden behind a fallen wall about 50 meters away. Team 3, ready, reported Corporal Park Soo from his hiding spot, inside what looked like a destroyed vehicle. Kim Jun smiled grimly. His 12 soldiers were spread out in a perfect circle around the alien patrol. Each human had spent their entire life training for moments like this. They had studied alien anatomy, learned how alien weapons worked, and practiced these attacks thousands of times in underground training facilities. Remember, Kim Jun whispered to his team, no witnesses, no evidence. We're supposed to be extinct. The alien patrol leader, a tall creature with blue skin and sharp teeth, stopped walking and looked around nervously. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. His scanner showed no signs of life anywhere nearby. Spread out, the alien leader ordered his team, search every pile of debris. Something is definitely wrong here. That was exactly what Kim Jun had been waiting for. As soon as the aliens separated from each other, they became easy targets. Execute, Kim Jun commanded. The attack was over in seconds. Silent energy beams shot out from 6 different hiding places, hitting each alien soldier before they could even cry out for help. The weapons made no sound and left no trace of their firing. To anyone watching from orbit, it would look like the patrol had simply fallen down for no reason. Immediately, the human soldiers emerged from their hiding places and went to work. They dragged the alien bodies toward hidden tunnel entrances that led deep underground. Within minutes, there was no sign that the aliens had ever been there. But Kim Chen's team wasn't finished yet. They took the aliens' communication equipment and reprogrammed it using technology that the creatures above could never have imagined. When the patrol's commanding officer called to check on them, he would receive a message saying that everything was fine and the patrol was continuing its search. Back on the alien ship, Commander Ralvex received the routine report and felt slightly relieved. At least this patrol was still safe. He had no way of knowing that his own communication system was lying to him. The tiny nanite machines that had infected every piece of alien technology were now smart enough to fake radio messages, sensor readings, and computer data. The aliens were getting false information about everything that was happening on the surface. As darkness fell across Earth's broken landscape, the same scene played out in dozens of locations around the world. Human strike teams emerged from tunnels like deadly shadows, attacking alien patrols with weapons the creatures had never seen before, then vanishing back underground as if they had never existed. The aliens thought they were the hunters, but they had become the prey. Admiral Corvex was angry and scared at the same time. Half of his soldiers on the planet below had stopped responding to radio calls. The mining teams were reporting equipment failures every day. Something was very wrong on the human homeworld, and he was tired of not knowing what it was. Bring in the war fleet, Corvex ordered his communication officer. If there are still humans alive down there, we'll finish what their own wars started. Within hours, 12 enormous warships appeared in the space around Earth. Each ship was over 2 miles long and carried enough weapons to destroy entire cities. The aliens called these ships world breakers because that's exactly what they were designed to do. Corvex stood on the bridge of the largest ship, the Planet Killer, and stared down at the broken world below. Prepare all weapons, he commanded. I want every square mile of that planet burned to ash. The weapon systems on all 12 ships began to charge up, creating a low humming sound that filled the air. In just a few minutes, they would fire beams of pure energy that would turn the entire surface of Earth into melted glass. Nothing could survive what they were about to do. But then something impossible happened. The dead planet below suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Huge metal slugs the size of train cars came shooting up from the surface, moving so fast they were almost invisible. 3 of the alien warships exploded immediately as these projectiles punched through their thick armor, like it was made of paper. Bright energy beams, more powerful than anything the aliens had ever seen, reached up from what looked like ordinary rock formations and cut through the remaining ship's protective shields. "What's happening?" Korvax screamed at his crew. "How can they have weapons that reach this far into space?" Before anyone could answer, thousands of missiles came streaming up from the planet's surface. But these weren't ordinary missiles. Each one was guided by a computer brain that had studied alien ship designs for hundreds of years. They knew exactly where to hit to cause the most damage. Officer Telmara, who was operating the ship's sensors, looked up with terror in her large eyes. "Sir, the missiles are avoiding our weapons. It's like they know exactly how our defense systems work." Down on Earth, 3 miles below what had once been the city of Busan, Commander Lee Hyen stood in a room filled with hundreds of control panels and giant screens. All around him, human technicians were operating the planet's hidden weapons with calm precision. Every gun, every missile launcher, every energy beam had been carefully placed and aimed over the course of 2 centuries. "Target the command ships first," Lee Hyen ordered. "Disable their weapons, but try not to destroy them completely. We need those ships." The humans had spent decades studying how alien fleets fought in space. They knew that alien commanders always arranged their ships in the same patterns, and they always made the same tactical mistakes. Every weapon on Earth had been positioned to take advantage of these weaknesses. "Sir, boarding pods are ready for launch," reported Captain Jung-soo from his position at a nearby control panel. "Launch them," Lee Hyen replied. All across Earth's surface, hidden doors opened in what looked like ordinary hills and crater walls. Out of these doors came small, fast ships that looked almost exactly like alien attack vessels. But inside each ship were teams of human soldiers who had been training their entire lives for this battle. The boarding pods shot through space toward the damaged alien warships. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but their own weapon systems were failing. The nanites that had infected every piece of alien technology were now turning their equipment against them. On the bridge of the planet Killer, Admiral Korvax watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by weapons he couldn't even see properly. Ship after ship was either destroyed or disabled by the mysterious attacks from the surface. "Sir, we're being boarded," shouted Telmara. "Small attack. Craft are docking with our ships." Korvax couldn't understand how this was possible. The aliens had sensors that could detect a single person from miles away. How could entire boarding parties approach their ships without being seen? The answer was that the humans weren't just using alien technology, they had made it better. Their boarding pods were coated with materials that made them invisible to alien sensors. Their soldiers wore armor that could change color and shape to match whatever was around them. Within 2 hours of the battle's start, 8 of the 12 alien warships had been captured. Human soldiers, moving through the ships like ghosts, had overwhelmed the alien crews using weapons and tactics the creatures had never seen before. The humans seemed to know the alien ships better than the aliens themselves did. Admiral Korvax, trapped on his damaged flagship, with half his crew dead or captured, finally realized what had happened. The humans hadn't died out at all. They had been pretending to be extinct while they prepared the perfect trap, and his entire fleet had flown right into it. The heavy metal door of the captured alien warship opened with a loud hissing sound. Admiral Thaklos, the leader of the alien fleet, found himself looking at something he had never expected to see. A living human being. Commander Kim Tae walked into the room wearing a simple gray uniform that looked nothing like the primitive clothing the aliens had expected from a backward species. Behind him came 2 human soldiers carrying weapons that looked familiar to Thaklos. They were clearly based on alien designs, but somehow they appeared more advanced and dangerous than the originals. "Admiral Thaklos," Kim Tae said, speaking perfect galactic standard without any accent or difficulty. "I am Commander Kim. Tay of the Earth Defense Force. You and your crews are now prisoners of a species your empire believed was extinct. Thaklos stared at the human in shock. He was a large alien with thick dark skin and 4 eyes that could see in different directions at once. Right now, all 4 eyes were focused on Kimte, trying to understand what he was seeing. This is impossible, Thaklos said, his voice shaking. Your planet is dead. We scanned every inch of it. There's no life anywhere. Kimte smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. The surface is dead, Admiral. We killed it ourselves. 300 years ago, our people made a very difficult choice. They decided to destroy the world they lived in so they could build the world they needed. The human commander walked over to one of the large windows that looked out into space. Through the thick glass, both of them could see Earth rotating slowly below. But something strange was happening to the dead planet. Huge machines were rising from beneath the surface, and streams of gas were being pumped into the atmosphere. While our cities burned above, Kimte continued, we dug deeper underground than your sensors could ever reach. We built an entire civilization down there, Admiral. Cities, factories, weapons facilities, training centers. Everything we needed to survive a meeting with species like yours. Thaklos watched in amazement as the planet below continued to transform. Areas that had looked like empty wastelands were now revealing hidden doors and launching platforms. Ships were taking off from what had appeared to be natural rock formations. The dead world was coming alive before his eyes. We studied every alien species that ever made contact with us, Kimte explained. We learned your languages, analyzed your technology, and figured out exactly how you fight your wars. We spent 3 centuries getting ready for this day, and you did exactly what we knew you would do. Through the window, Thaklos could see human ships launching from concealed bases all across the planet's surface. These weren't primitive vessels built by a backward civilization. They were sleek, advanced spacecraft that combined the best alien technology with improvements that no other species had ever thought of. But why? Thaklos asked. Why go through all of this? Why pretend to be dead? Kimte turned away from the window and looked directly at the alien admiral. Because we learned something important from studying galactic history, Admiral. Every time a new species joins the galactic community, they get conquered by the older, more powerful civilizations. We decided that wouldn't happen to us. The human commander walked back toward the door, but stopped and turned around one more time. We're not hiding anymore, Admiral. For 300 years, we've been watching and learning and preparing. Now it's time to show the galaxy what humanity can really do. Outside the window, the human fleet was forming up into attack formation. Thaklos counted at least 50 ships, and more were launching every minute. These vessels carried weapons and technology that his own engineers wouldn't understand for decades. Where are you going? Thaklos asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. Kimte's smile became even colder. We're going to visit your home worlds, Admiral. We're going to teach your empire the same lesson you just learned here. The galaxy has spent centuries thinking that humans were primitive and weak. It's time to show them how wrong they were. As Thaklos watched, the human fleet activated their faster-than-light engines and disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward the heart of his empire. They were carrying with them all the captured alien ships, all the stolen technology, and all the secrets they had learned from studying his people. The Admiral finally understood the true horror of what had happened. His empire hadn't just lost a battle or even a war. They had awakened something that had been pretending to be asleep, something that had been planning and preparing for this moment for hundreds of years. Humanity had been playing dead while they learned everything there was to know about their enemies. Now they were alive again, and they were angry about 3 centuries of being underestimated. The galaxy was about to discover that there was nothing more dangerous than a species that everyone thought was extinct, and it was far too late to do anything about it. The hunt was about to begin, and this time, humanity would be the hunters.